And Raina, listen, I used to have the biggest beef when all these courses and programs would come out and people would say, oh, I had a 6-figure launch. And I've worked with people who have had 6-figure launches, but they also had 6-figure expenses associated with those launches. So they really didn't profit very much money, but nobody talks about that. But if you knew how much they spent on Facebook ads, how much they spent on affiliate ads, it's not as glamorous. You have to kind of focus on your own money, keep your eyes on your own money and on your own business to know what's right for you and kind of check in with yourself and say, okay, what are my goals for my business finance? Not comparing it to anyone else.
Hey, this is Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creatives like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success. Hey Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 166 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And today our guest is Kendra James of the Finance Femme. This episode is going to be all about getting your dollars right. We're going to be talking small business, finance, and accounting tips. I feel like this is such an important topic because so many of us aren't focusing in on our finances and our accounting, and it's something that we should be paying attention to if we are not. So let me tell you guys a little bit more about Kendra. She is a virtual CFO and business manager that helps business owners in all aspects of their finances and accounting. And here's what I think you guys are going to love about Kendra's story. After 10 years working in corporate finance, she decided to ditch her 6-figure corporate salary and build her brand and business to serve as a full-time money manager and coach for boss women. And on this episode, we're diving into the difference between accounting and finance, the formula for scaling your business, how to manage your expenses, navigating multiple income streams, pricing strategies, increasing your service value, how to figure out your business KPIs, and so much more. So make sure that you are tuned in. As always, you can find us on social. We are Dreams and Drive across the board. And if you're sharing this episode, which I highly, highly suggest and hope that you all are doing, please make sure to tag us and please make sure to use the hashtag Dreams and Drive. It's a great way for me to know who's talking about each episode. And it's also a great way for Dream Drivers to find out who else is part of the community. So please, please, please screenshot and share. You know, I always appreciate it when you guys do. If you want to get Dreams and Drive merchandise, we are still selling t-shirts, hoodies, and crew neck sweatshirts on the website. So just go to dreamsanddrive.com/shop, dreamsanddrive.com/shop to pick up your gear. And lastly, guys, if you are not already part of our Dreams and Drive newsletter, so we send out a newsletter once a week and it's called The Keys. Just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join to sign up. All right. Hope you guys enjoy this episode. Hi, Kendra. Welcome to this episode of Dreams and Drive. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Yes, I'm very, very excited to be here. Thank you.
You know what? We were talking beforehand and you were a guest on Art Steele's podcast. Art Steele's a good friend of mine. And also she was a guest. And, you know, I'm so excited to just talk to you today because I think talking about our financial health, financial literacy, metrics that we can use in our business to really make sure that we are on track is going to be a great conversation today.
Yes. I'm ready to get started. That episode with Art was awesome. I loved it. And so definitely thrilled to be on here with you and talk about finance. Because yes, you're right. It's so very important, particularly with our business finances.
So let's start from the beginning, right? If I had to say who was Kendra, the 10-year-old, were you interested in crunching numbers back then?
Yes, very much so.
Oh, you were? Okay.
I very much was. I always tell people I was that girl that was creating a grocery list in Excel with my mom. Like, we are definitely like a geeked out kind of family. My dad and my sister, they're engineers. Me and my mom were both in the accounting space. So it's always been something like as a kid that I just enjoyed. Because numbers just make sense to me because, I mean, they're absolute, right? Like 1 + 1 is always 2. There's no gray area there. So I've definitely always been that person, that child that loved numbers and math and all of that.
Were you, did you have a budget? Not a budget. What did you call it? Allowance. Did your parents give you allowance as a kid?
No, I didn't have an allowance. I did not have an allowance. I had chores, but I didn't have money coming with the chores.
It's funny because I was trying to think back to my own childhood, and I remember like I was always the kid that like I would, you know how kids like once they get money they spend it. For some reason, I was the kid who like when we would walk to school, we go to the corner store before going to school, and I would always be the one loaning out the dollars or the quarters to people because I would figure out how to keep it. So I did not spend money as a kid. I would just accumulate everything. So I loved like counting the money that I had because I never spent it.
That feeling of like being able to count it and like stack it up and everything. Yeah, for sure.
So what was the dream back then, being a young adolescent, going into high school, college? What did you kind of envision your life looking like?
Well, I always knew that I wanted to be in like the finance space, but I didn't really know what that meant. So I also was really into like computers and technology. And so actually when I first went to school, I majored in computer science, thinking that I wanted to build systems, like financial systems. But I realized very quickly in my freshman year of college that computer science, like you don't jump into building systems, you jump into like C++ coding and all that. I was like, okay, no, that's not what I want to do. So I ditched that pretty quickly and then went into finance and accounting, and I fell in love. Like I was like, this is absolutely what I want to do. And so it was pretty clear to me then that I wanted to be in that space, but I didn't know that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like my family is very corporate driven. You know, everyone's gone through corporate America. So entrepreneurship wasn't even really a thought for me. My goal was to just climb the corporate ladder and, live out this little professional career that I was enjoying. But that was really the ultimate goal for me, was just stay in corporate.
Can you give us a summary of what climbing the corporate ladder was like for you and how it made you feel during your ascent to the top?
When I first got out of school, I started off in like an entry level kind of accounting department kind of position, and then went over into the marketing department. And that's when I actually started doing like more financial analytics. So I got out of accounting pretty quickly and went into the more finance side. And that's really where I love to live, which is more like analytics and metrics and things like that, more data analysis than the actual like accounting work. And so when I went into that space, that's when I really started to progress pretty quickly, because in finance, a lot of people go into accounting, but finance is a little different. So
what's the difference? That's a big thing. A lot of people don't even know there's a difference, right? Because I would be like, oh, it's the same thing. Accountant, finance person, same thing, right?
Yes, everyone kind of thinks that it's the same thing. So accounting, the easiest way for me to explain it is like accounting is tracking what has happened with your money or with your business. So it's looking at the past and actually saying, okay, because you spent money here, it's on this expenses, or you made money that's this kind of an income. It's looking at your past history and kind of classifying it according to what the IRS needs to know for taxes, right? That's kind of what accounting is. Finance is using that information and projecting the future. So saying, okay, based on what you did and what the accountant is showing that you did, now I'm going to look and say, based on that and what's going on in the marketplace, here's how we project your future. So here's where I think your sales can go based on, this expense or this investment that you're going to make in your business. So finance is more forward thinking and more based on what the information that you gather, where accounting is more tactical and putting together kind of classifying transactions that already happened in the past.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. So let's get back to the story. So you had made that switch.
Yeah, so I made that switch. And like I said, I just kind of fell in love in that space. And really the way that the climbing kind of happened there was you just get more and more knowledge, right? So you kind of start off as like a financial analyst, and then you start to support CFOs. And so that's where I really was the happiest, is when I was supporting like CFOs and CEOs in boardroom meetings. And we were, taking on these big projects, trying to understand, okay, we want to scale the business, grow at 25% this quarter or whatever it is, and figuring out the strategy to make that happen. So finance is a lot of strategy work. And so that's kind of what I did in that space, and was loving it. Honestly, I was perfectly content in my little corporate job.
So strategy for scaling, that's something that I feel like a lot of us, we've heard about it in theory, but we never actually, we never actually dove into what goes into that. Is there an actual like formula that you need to understand if you want to scale your business?
It really depends on the type of business you have. It's like, for instance, whether if it's like retail versus consulting or service-based or something like that. But ultimately, what it boils down to is looking at your revenue streams and looking at your expenses, right? Your operating expenses. So understanding how are you going to make money, which are your revenue streams, and then what do you need to have operationally so that you can have those revenue streams. Those are all your operating expenses. Like, do you have to have a team? Do you have to have a facility, a warehouse, whatever it is? But it's peeling down the big picture, because I feel like a lot of creatives are very good at the big picture, but it's taking that big picture and it's peeling it all the way down to the smallest detail and figuring out, okay, well, how do we get that to happen? So if the big picture is step 100, it's figuring out step 1, 2, 3, like how do we get to 100? And so that's kind of where the strategy behind the scaling comes into play.
So, before we go deep into this part and talk about finance, metrics, all that good stuff, I want to ask you, when was that moment where you realized that maybe this climbing is not really what your purpose is?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, honestly, I got bored. Like, you know how when, you're in corporate, you get so efficient at like your full-time job that you just have this free time at work. And so it was a 40-hour-a-week job, but by Monday, 5:00, I was bored because I had gotten all my work done for the week, and my boss didn't know that, but I knew that. And so that's when I actually started. A lot of people don't know the finance firm is actually not my first business. It's my second business. My first business I started when I was bored, and I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I had just recently cut all of my hair off. And so I was newly natural, and everyone was asking me like a million and one questions about hair products. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to, make my own products and sell them. And so that's what I did. I had a hair care line, and that was a cute little side hustle for a while. And then I ended up landing in Curl Box, which is like the subscription box, and orders started to pick up. And I got out of that business real quick because I was not passionate at all about natural hair care. So I ended up closing up that business, went back into corporate full time, and I was just like, I was good with that. And then it wasn't me deciding that climbing the corporate ladder wasn't good for me. Entrepreneurship truly just fell in my lap because I was talking with a woman who owned a boutique, and she was telling me how her finances were in shambles and how she needed help. And I started helping her, and literally that's like my first client. And that's how the finance room started. It wasn't a goal or a vision of mine to do it. It just happened. And then once I started seeing how her business turned around, and she started to connect me with other people, and I started helping them, it was like a no-brainer that I needed to get out of corporate and help more women, full-time with their business.
What made you say yes to that opportunity?
There was no way I could say no. Like I literally walked into her boutique was shopping and in casual conversation. She's like, "Can you help me with my finance?" Because she asked me what I was, what I do for a living. I told her I work in corporate finance. And she's like, "Can you help me?" I'm like, "Sure. I'll come back, next week sometime." And she's like, "No, like, can you help me right now? Like, walk back with me to my office." And once I walked back there, I was assuming that there would be an accountant back there. It might be a little bit of cleanup or something. No, like her records were all over the place. And so once I saw that, there was no way I was going to turn her down. Like, she needed help with her business, and finance and accounting isn't something that you can just like pick up on your own as a business owner. Like, you have to outsource that to somebody who understands it. So turning her away was not an option.
So you didn't know her anything prior going into the boutique?
I had not known her. I had just recently moved to Dallas, actually. I was probably in Dallas for all of a month when I walked into that boutique on a whim and met her. And that's exactly how that happened.
You know why I'm so fascinated about this? Because I know like there have been so many opportunities that I feel like I could have said yes to, but I didn't. And sometimes I wonder, like, did I say no because I was nervous? Did I say no because, I didn't feel ready? And I feel like people listening in, there might be these opportunities or people see, like, they see where they can help someone with their expertise, but they're afraid to jump. But you just seem so confident, and you were like, there's no way I could say no. And I just find that so like inspiring,
Yeah, and to your point, there definitely are going to be opportunities that, come in front of us and we don't really know what to go with a yes or with a no with it. But with this, it really did feel like in that moment, I honestly felt like that, at that point I was in corporate for like 10 years. It felt like that 10 years of corporate training or corporate climbing was like corporate training. I felt like I was being paid to train on finance and accounting so that I can then actually do what I'm meant to do, which is help women. So it almost kind of clicked to me at that point. I didn't know it was going to be all of this and become like a firm and all of that. I thought I'd just take a couple of clients on the side of maybe still doing my full-time job. But it was in taking her on and then getting that second client and that third client where I realized like, no, this needs my full attention and this needs to become something bigger than just like a side hustle that I'm doing alongside my job.
What do you think was the biggest finance lesson that you learned from those years in corporate that you're now applying to the strategies you're helping our business owners with?
I think the biggest thing is having a strategy. Like I feel like right now there's so many people going into entrepreneurship and creating small businesses, which is amazing. But it's almost kind of happening on a whim and there's no strategy behind it. So assuming that just because you're making sales in your business, it doesn't mean that that's enough. Like you still have to have a strategy behind it. Sales is great because it shows that you may have a viable like business idea, but you have to then manage the sales and you have to understand where your sales are coming from. So you can't just avoid the management part and the strategy part just because money is coming in. So it's definitely having an actual strategy behind your finances.
And that's so important. I feel like people just think, as long as I, am in the plus every month, it's all right. But no, you actually have to figure it out because you may not always be in the positive every month. And, as your business grows, as your different revenue streams grow as well, that's definitely also something that you need to take into mind. But let's get into the nitty gritty. Maybe we can start with your first client. You don't have to give us any like private information, but what do you think was the biggest problem you saw and that other, people who are in this space normally have when you start working with them? And how did you help her turn it around?
So expense management. So with this particular client and with the next several clients, honestly, they were making pretty decent money. But the problem was none of it was hitting their bank account, or it would hit their bank account, but before they could see it, it's already being spent on something. And so expense management is major because you'll see so many people that are busting their tail to bring money in, and they might be bringing in $20, $30, $40, $50,000 a month, but their bank account barely increases month over month. And it's because the money's gone before it even has time to settle. So it's really a matter of understanding where your money is going. And it's not necessarily just creating a budget. Like creating a budget is great, but if you're not going to stick to it, then there's really no point in it. So it's more so just looking at your expenses, where the money is actually going out and understanding what's needed, what are expenses that you have to have, what's going to bring a high return on investment when you're putting money out there. So expense management is definitely the key. I think that's number one for most businesses.
And then what's something else that you also see with small businesses especially?
I would say probably not focusing on the revenue streams that make sense. So particularly now, I think, especially with a lot of creatives, there's a lot of different ways to make money. There's different ways to make money online. You can make money in person. You can make money selling memberships, all different types of things. And so I think a lot of times our minds race and we want to do so many different things at once. And so we might have 7 streams because everybody thinks that's what you need to be a millionaire.
Right? The 7 streams to being a millionaire.
Exactly. Everyone's focused on having 7 streams, but it's like they're not streams. They're like trickles of dollars coming in. And so instead of like focusing on the number of streams that you have, focus on the quality of streams that you have. And so I would say, first focus on bringing consistent revenue from a particular stream and having that become somewhat automated or at least systematized before you go into then having another income stream in your business.
How can you test if your business is actually viable, if what you're doing makes sense? Is there like a formula? Is there a certain like milestone that you should be able to hit in order to know if this makes sense for you to continue doing?
I'd say the first milestone I would set is 3 months. So 3 months of consistent sales. Now that sales number might vary depending on what you're selling, right? So let's say you're a retailer and you sell products, whether it's, online or whether it's in a brick and mortar store, for you, if you're selling $10 items, it might just be, let me just hit 10K each month. Right. But if you're selling a 5K package because you have a service offering or something like that, maybe your goal is 50K, but it's 3 months of consistent sales. That's the first milestone, because every business is going to have seasonality where, some months and seasons are higher and lower than others. But if you can have 3 consistent months where you're not, necessarily scrambling each month to get those 3 consistent months, but it's like you feel like the business can sustain that, then that's that first milestone. And once you have that, then you can figure out how to create some efficiencies in your business where, maybe you have 3 consistent months of these sales, and now you can cut some of the expenses and still keep the consistent income coming in. Because that's kind of the next step. Once you have the money coming in, are you able to strip away any expenses or reduce any expenses and still keep that level of income coming in?
What if you have 3 months of consistently low sales, right? It's still sales and it's consistent, but you just never actually, let's say you are I'm trying to think of like maybe a photographer, right? And you're making $1,000 for 3 months straight, but that's only $3,000. And in the long run, you can't quit your day job, right? You can't, it's not actually becoming a sustainable business. Because another thing that I think is often a struggle now that entrepreneurship is so accessible to anyone, right? It's like, what really defines running a business? Does it really depend on your own goals? I think there's so much. I'm here answering the question myself. I think it can depend. But what's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so I think it always depends on what your end goal is. And so it's like that whole concept of like success, right? Like success is what you want it to be. Is success to you leaving your full-time job, or is success and being an entrepreneur to you just making, $500 a month on the side by only, putting in a couple hours a week or a month for your business? So I think like the definition of I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner, that, it's kind of like, it's going to be kind of hard to really regulate, but I think ultimately, if you know what your end goal is, which is how much money are you willing to bring in each month, or and how much time are you willing to put into that business, then you can determine whether or not you're being successful in your business. So for some people, that might be, for some photographers, it might be making $2,000 a month doing just one wedding gig or 2, branding photo shoots or something like that. And if they hit that, then they're good. Where for others, it might be tripling that, So I think the first thing is really sitting down and figuring out what are you wanting out of your business from an income perspective, but also how much are you willing to put into it from a time perspective.
I love that you said that. And I think something that I've been working on personally is knowing that your financial journey is your journey, right? It's not X's journey, A's journey, B's journey. Because I think especially with social media, you might think, I'm not doing enough, right? Or I don't have enough revenue streams, because you see everyone else doing everything, but you don't know how their books look behind that computer screen, right?
No, absolutely not. And Raina, listen, I used to have the biggest beef when all these courses and programs would come out and people would say, oh, I had a 6-figure launch and, I sold $130,000 on this launch, and the cart was open for 2 weeks. And it would kind of annoy me because I've worked with people who have had 6-figure launches, but they also had 6-figure expenses associated with those launches. And so they really didn't profit very much money, but nobody talks about that. We just talk about the 6-figure launch. And it's like, yeah, but if you knew how much they spent on Facebook ads, how much they spent on affiliate ads, or affiliate income, all of that, it's not as glamorous. And so it definitely is true that you have to kind of focus on your own money, keep your eyes on your own money and on your own business to know what's right for you, and kind of check in with yourself and say, okay, what are my goals for my business financially? Not comparing it to anyone else.
Yeah, if we take it back to your own journey, I think something that's also very important is figuring out what are the right services for you to offer, or what are the right revenue streams for you. And maybe you can talk to us a little bit about how you started to define what you were going to offer, right, to your clients and the type of services and revenue streams you were going to, not invest in, but what's the word? Put out there.
When I first started off, it was, okay, well, I'll just offer, these accounting or finance type services to small businesses. And then I quickly realized that the majority of businesses, at least that I was coming across, didn't even have like a bookkeeper or an accountant. So I couldn't just come in and do this high level finance type work because the accounting wasn't done. So I was like, okay, well then I guess I got to do their accounting as well. So the service kind of evolved. And that's what I tell people all the time in business in general is start off with what you know, like what you think people need based on what you've asked them and all of that, but let it evolve because you're going to realize, okay, clients are really actually needing a little bit of this or a little bit of that. So you're going to tweak your service a little bit, but it started off for me with just almost accounting and a little bit of finance work. And now it's turned into a full CFO firm. So we do accounting, taxes, and finances, but it's evolved to that, like over time, realizing what my particular type of clients need. That's where it is now. It's truly like a full service firm. But again, it started off just doing accounting, cleanup work and things like that.
And your pricing definitely evolved as well, right? Because I think that's another big thing that a lot of small business owners are like, but I don't know what to charge. I don't even know where to start with charging. It's a big hurdle, especially as a creative, when what you're offering is like, it's not like, a t-shirt that you know how much you bought it for, how much your markup's going to be, right? There's kind of a model. Like, how do you help your clients when it comes to those pricing difficulties or challenges?
So pricing is a combination. Pricing is, first of all, is definitely an art and a science for sure, especially in service-based industries. But it starts off almost twofold. So it starts off based on how much value you're actually bringing to your client. So for me, it's a little bit easy to track because I'm tracking their money, right? So I can kind of tell, okay, I'm bringing your income up this much, or I'm decreasing your expenses this much. But for service-based entrepreneurs that are maybe like massage therapists or something like that, where it's not tied to a dollar, think about it in terms of their happiness, like their emotions. So are you helping them physically? Put a value on what you're offering them. Does that make sense? So it's not like based on a particular dollar, but it's just based on the general value that you're bringing to them and to their lives or to their business. If it's weight loss, you're helping them, whatever it is, and you associate a value to that. That's one side of it. So how would the client value what you're doing? The other side of it is how much time are you willing to put into whatever service it is that you're offering? So if it's just something that you are, dedicating 1 hour a week to give them this, weekly massage or whatever it is, or 1 hour a week to do a weekly coaching call with a client, then calculate that based on, what you feel like your appropriate average rate would be, hourly rate would be based on the marketplace. That's also very important. But those are kind of the two ways to approach pricing is how does the client perceive the value and how much time are you willing to put into that actual service? But it really is art and science. Like at the end of the day, you put a number out there and you're going to tweak it up and down for a while before you feel confident in knowing, like, not only am I happy with this price, but the marketplace is happy with this price, because you can be happy with it. But if the marketplace isn't happy with it, you're not going to sell anything. So you are a proponent of like changing it if people are saying it's too high or if it's too low?
Well, people want to say it's too low, but like, should you ever like bring your prices down?
So for sure, there's definitely going to be a case where people price too high. Oftentimes, though, I would say most people price too low. But so I wouldn't say bring your price down because, some random person said, oh, that's too expensive.
I can't afford that.
But you want to just make sure that your valuation is there. So again, valuation is so gray, right? It's exactly why, you can see a company go on Shark Tank and they might value their company at $1 million. And then Mark Cuban is like, no, boo, it's like $500K. Like that's not $1 million company. It's very gray. It's not a solid formula for it. However, you can at least compare your service to similar services out there and see if you add extra value to what they're doing, then you can add extra price to that. If you're in line with what they're doing, then your pricing needs to be in line with that. But the key is you can't just increase your prices without increasing the value. So I'm very, very big on providing high value so that you can command premium prices in whatever it is that you do. Because being average, you're never going to win. You're always going to be going against price, competing on price.
What's an example of average value versus premium value?
Okay, so glad you asked, because it's hard to explain without an example.
I'm like, what? I'm trying to think of it.
So here's a perfect example, right? So say you go to a spa or whatever to go get a massage. So on average, I don't know, let's say a massage is $200 an hour, right? On your regular, just kind of massage envy type spots or whatever. But then you go to this really luxurious spa where as soon as you walk in, they give you a glass of champagne. They give you some chocolates. You get this nice robe. Everything is just really luxurious and really hot, like really attentive. Mm-hmm. They might charge you $350 for that same hour massage because the premium, everything is just premium and nicer. It's just more high touch, right? So because of that, you're getting the same 60 minutes of a hand on your shoulder, giving you a massage, but you're paying almost double the price because of the premium service.
Okay, I definitely get it. I'm thinking about my manicure, right, and pedicure, because yesterday I got one, but I went to a different spot that was a little cheaper, but I definitely saw the difference, right? Like, they didn't want to clean my toenails. I'm like, listen, y'all got to take the little thing and like clean, it's just like little things like that where it's like you can see, even if it's just a $3 difference, there's a reason why they had that difference in there. So I now it's making a lot of sense.
Yes.
One thing that I often, just in doing research for this interview, I was thinking about just day-to-day things that small business owners probably aren't doing. What do you think are the top metrics that you should be keeping track of as part of running your business and having a financially healthy business?
Yeah, so for sure, income and expenses. Just look at how much money is coming in each month and how much money you're spending each month. And typically, you don't need this fancy accounting system. You don't even need an accountant to know the money that's coming in and the money that's going out. Income, you can just look at whatever you use to bill people. If it's PayPal, if it's QuickBooks, whatever it is, whatever invoicing system you use, or if you have a retail store, you can use Shopify or BigCommerce, whatever you're using, to just look at the income that's coming in. And then as far as expenses, you should have one bank account that you use strictly for business, where you use that for your expenses. And so to look at how much you're spending, all you have to do is log into your bank account or look at your monthly bank statements. And between income and expenses, that's at least what you have to be doing. That's at the very least, look at that. And then I always suggest also looking at 2 to 3 metrics or KPIs, which are key performance indicators that are important for your particular business or industry. Those KPIs will kind of vary by the industry, but I can give you some examples. So for instance, if you are in retail, right? So whether you have a brick and mortar store or you have an e-commerce store, these are the metrics that I usually suggest people look at. So the number of orders that you're making each month, and then the average order value. So are you usually selling, when they purchase, is it usually $150? Is it normally $277? Whatever that is, look at your average order value. And also look at the percent of discounts given. And the reason why I say percent of discounts given is because oftentimes, particularly with retail stores that are brick and mortar, they'll give loyalty discounts, or they'll just say, oh yeah, I'll put this on sale. And you want to keep track of that because that's cutting into your margin, which is the money that you're taking home at the end of the day. So you want to, just be cognizant of the percent of discounts that you're giving throughout the month. So that's for retail. So does those kind of make sense?
Yeah. Is there a certain baseline for something that's healthy? Should you only be giving 20% of discounts or 10% of discounts, or does it really vary?
It varies, but it really varies depending on your pricing structure. So if you are a business that does a 2 times markup, right? So for instance, if you buy a shirt for $20 wholesale and then price it at $40 when you sell it in your store, then you obviously don't want to have a percent of discounts given at 50% or more, because that means you're then taking away all of the margin, all of the profit from that item. So without going into like diving into all these numbers, because I'll go deep into numbers, you want to definitely be cognizant of it, but and just track it like on a month-to-month basis to make sure that you're not taking away from the overall profitability of your business.
So what about service-based businesses, right? Where you are the service. Can you also use those KPIs? I know it wouldn't be like, well, I guess there could still be average order value, right? Like whatever the average amount, like how would that work for those type of businesses?
So for those types of businesses, I like to look at the number of active prospects. So if you have like I call it like a prospect pool. So basically, if you're a coach, a business coach, and you know that you have, 10 people that you have calls with in the upcoming month that are prospective clients, like you want to keep track of the number of active prospects that you have each month. And then you also want to keep track of the conversion rates. So how many out of all the sales calls that you make or consultation calls that you make, how many of those are converting to actual clients? So those are the two metrics that I always keep track of for coaches and for consultants and things like that, or the number of prospects that you have, and then how are you converting them?
You're talking about keeping track of stuff, right? And I feel like that's so important. But one thing that people don't realize is you have to have like systems and processes in place in order to be able to keep track of anything. Yeah. What are some recommendations you can give our dream drivers for how they can start creating spreadsheets or just keeping track and creating these systems so that they can sit down at the end of the month and actually take a look at these numbers?
So I'm a fan of all things Google, right? So Google Sheets is major. Google Sheets and Google Docs I use all the time. But for keeping track of metrics and keeping track of like income coming in, all of that, Google Sheets for sure. And you can truly make the spreadsheet as simple or as like wild and crazy as you want. But at the end of the day, just across the top of the spreadsheet, in that first row, just put all of your months, January, February, March, all the way through December, and then down column A, just list the different things that you want to keep track of. So income, expenses, and then your 2 to 3, metrics or KPIs that you want to keep track of. And that is your simple spreadsheet, your simple way to keep track of these metrics on a month-to-month basis. And once you plug your information in there, the first month you do it, the second month you do it, you might be like, okay, this is cool. I'm keeping track of some information. But by the time you have 5, 6, 7 months worth of information in that spreadsheet, you'll be able to see the trends in your business. And that's when you're able to really say like, okay, I need to do better here, or I need to do better there, because why in June, did I only convert at 10% of the sales calls that I made, but back, in March, I converted at 60%. Like, what was I doing then that I'm not doing now? So when you have monthly information like that, that's when you can really start to use your information to better grow your business.
When was a time in your own business where you were doing this and you realized, whoa, something happened and it's not going how I thought it was supposed to go?
But I was tracking like my metrics?
Yeah, like, just maybe it's just like, what was a challenge you faced in your business and how did you overcome that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So one was when, before I kind of pivoted to this like more premium pricing type of a model, I realized that I had clients. I had way too many clients, basically, at this point. Like, I had way too many clients, and I wasn't able to provide the type of service that I wanted to provide for them because I was pricing way too low, and I was juggling these clients. I was working constantly, and it just didn't make sense. And so that's when I started to see like, okay, well, on average, how much am I making per client? Because, different clients their pricing varied. And so I saw that number and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. So I knew at that moment, that's truly when I pivoted to this kind of model that I'm in now. I knew that I had to provide a lot more value so that I can up the price and work with less clients at the end of the day. And that was by far the biggest change in my business model and in my life, really, because now I work a fraction of the time and I get to work with people who, just really value what I'm doing because I'm providing so much value to their business. So seeing that metric for myself and my business was definitely a big deal.
How do you feel now? Like, how do you feel? Was there like a sense of relief for you as well? Because I feel like that's something that I think a lot of people could probably relate to when they finally get it right?
Yeah, for sure. There was definitely a big sense of relief. And then that's actually around the time when I had a bunch of like accountants and other finance professionals start to message me on like social media and stuff like that. And they were kind of asking me like, hey, how have you built this brand? How has this happened? And up until that point, when they were asking me, I was kind of like, listen, you don't want to learn from me. Like I am slaving with these clients. Like I can tell you how to build a brand, but on the business side, like I am underwater. And then once I made that change, I was able to actually start to help those women and kind of coach them on how to do something similar with their business, because it happens all the time, and not just within accounting and finance, but a lot of service providers. We just want to help people. We put our price out there, it's too low, and all of a sudden we just get overwhelmed. So yeah, I was very happy when that shift happened.
Ooh, let's talk about that, because I know you offer two main services, right? Your virtual CFO services, and then you also are a coach to accountants. How did you grow that part of the business? Like, what were your marketing strategies? How did you just get clients for that arm? Because I feel like it's so niche, but it's so smart.
That was totally organic. So
Okay.
I had zero thoughts or plan or strategy or anything around that. That was literally just other accountants hitting me up on social media, mainly asking me, okay, well, how are you doing this? And so I started off doing like one-on-one, almost like mentorships. So it was like 6-month long mentorships with one woman at a time. And that was amazing, but I could obviously only help 2 women a year. And so I kind of evolved that to where I was doing live workshops here in Dallas. And so I did that a couple of times, and that worked out well. And then I was like, okay, everyone's not willing to fly to Dallas to learn this stuff. And so I did virtual calls, but now, yeah, we've packaged it to be completely virtual. It's a program that they can get their sales training, marketing training, social media training, pricing, how to package and position their services in a premium way. Like all of that has now been put together in a series of different videos and worksheets and all kinds of things. So yeah, that's kind of how that grew. But that was totally organic. I had no idea that was even going to be a thing, and now it's become a thing.
I love the theme of things organically happening, right? Like you went into that boutique not knowing that you would, the woman would need your help, and things just kind of evolve. What would you say to that person who feels like, will I ever get that moment? Because I feel like some people are searching for that moment, right? It's like, I'm looking for the moment and it's not appearing. Like, what would you say to that person who's kind of like not in the throes of wanting to give up?
Yeah. And I've been there. Like I've definitely been there. And I'll say I've been there when I'm searching and I'm searching in the wrong area, like when that whole natural hair care line, like I don't know what I was doing. Like I thought that was going to be it. People were telling me, oh, your hair. So you do something with your hair. And so I did it because that's what people were telling me. So I would just say to those who are out there and kind of, trying so hard to start something down a certain path, just be still. And it will come to you, and not come to you with, your sister telling you do this business, or your mom telling you do this business, or social media telling you do this business. Like it will come to you, probably when you're not really expecting it. It's just like the whole, your spouse thing. Oh, you're going to find them when you're least expecting it. You just kind of have to be still. And I know that's hard because, especially if you have an entrepreneurial mindset, like you're wanting to just go out and get it, but there is a part of just having to kind of just wait and you'll know, like you'll feel like, okay, this is something I need to go into. And it doesn't mean that as soon as you go into it, it's going to be perfect. There's still going to be a lot of grinding, a lot of failures, perceived failures and things like that happen. But you got to just stick it through if you feel like it's right.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the business aspect and the finance and the accounting aspect, when is it time? Like, when would you recommend somebody bringing an expert, right? Because I could only make my own spreadsheets, but for so long. Is there a moment, or, if you afford it, you should just, if you can afford it, you should just hire someone from the jump?
No. So I feel like when you don't feel like you have the ability or the capacity to do it, is when you need to start looking for someone else to do it. Now, with that being said, if your business is generating less than like $8K a month, that's usually the number that I throw out there. If it's generating less than $8K a month on a consistent basis, then you want to really focus on bringing in recurring revenue. So you don't need to hire a CFO or anything like that to come in and create all this metric analysis and all of that. You first want to focus on generating consistent income that's sustainable. I don't recommend like sourcing a CFO level type professional until you're closer to like 20K a month at that point. So before that though, if it's under 8K, focus on recurring revenue to where you're hitting 8K consistently. And then at that point, you can start to get an accountant or even like a bookkeeper to help you with your finances.
And I also think it's good to get to know your numbers, because if you just outsource it to somebody in the beginning, they could be ripping you off. You hear about all these celebrities who don't know that their managers were stealing from them, right? You know, it's like you need to get and be familiar with those key numbers, those key metrics. And that's going to help you, even if you're a creator, even if you're not like a numbers person. Just like everyone knows how to drive, right? You may not like it. You might you might use Uber, but just having that license is something that will come in handy no matter what, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then when you start working with a professional, a bookkeeper, an accountant, whatever it is, still be in touch with your numbers. Like have them compile the information, but never have an accountant that doesn't then come back to you and relay the information to you and keep you updated and abreast on what's going on, because that's exactly what happens is they can, and obviously not all accountants are going to go scam you, but they can because they know all your information and they're more familiar with it. So definitely make sure that you have a relationship with your accountant or your bookkeeper or your CFO where they are keeping you in the loop very tightly on what's going on.
And lastly, I just thought of this question. You work with a lot of different type of business owners and businesses. Is there a trend or is there a type of business that you think does really well, but people just really aren't really capitalizing on it? Or is there a certain type of business trend that you wish more, especially, people of color would really start investing in or learning more about?
One area where I feel like we should start investing in more is coaching. I know that it can be a little hard because right now coaching is like a thing and it just seems like, okay, who do I trust? Who's really actually a good coach? But I do think if it's a very specific type of coach. So like, for instance, I don't say go get a business coach. I go get whatever kind of business coach you specifically need in this moment. If it's branding, go get someone to help you with your branding. If it's sales, go get someone to help you with your sales. But don't just get someone that's general. Like you need help with something specific. But in general, I just think coaching is really very, very important for people who are starting a business, and get someone who's where you want to get someone who is where you are wanting to go, right? Like do that. So I definitely think that that's where we should be getting it more into. And as far as businesses that I think are doing well, I would say right now, particularly with social media, e-commerce businesses are killing the game, like killing it. You can have an amazing e-commerce business where you are selling a product and you don't have to house any inventory. You can drop ship it, and you can make a killing because your overhead is very, very low, particularly if you have something that's kind of niche-y. Can be a great area to get into. Would
digital products will fit under that too, like ebooks, or is that a different type of business?
Not necessarily ebooks. I think ebooks can work, but since that's like knowledge based, it's a little bit a harder play because you have to then let people know and show people that you have like this area of expertise, right, that you're selling in this format. Now, so when I'm talking e-commerce, I'm talking more like product based that's kind of catchy and easy to throw out to some influencers to put on and help increase sales, right? But things where you're selling like knowledge or information, whether it's like a course or something like that, it's a little bit harder to grow initially because you have to prove that you know what it is that you're trying to sell in that book. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So Kendra, as we wrap up, right, I feel like I just this is a new segment, so our dream drivers will never heard about this before, but I want to ask you who's in your car, right? So as dream drivers, we're on this journey. When you think about like race car drivers, when they pull into the pit stop, they have the people who are like changing the tires and doing everything. Like, who's part of your crew, your team that's helping you keep the dream alive as you're driving?
Oh, that is Good. That is new, huh? Okay.
Yeah, you're the first one, girl. First one.
Who's in my car? I would have to say that's a good question. There's so many people in my car. Like, there's so many people that are keeping my car moving and gassed up. But I would have to say, I guess if I had to choose one person, it would be my wife. Mm-hmm. Like, she is definitely holding me down, just mentally across everything. When I left corporate, it was a crazy transition, building my own business and all of that. And she's just kind of been there to hold me down all along the way. So I would definitely say that she is the one that's kind of in that seat, holding everything together for me.
No, I think it's so important for us to acknowledge those people, right? Because I think sometimes people think we do it alone, but we do. Oh, yeah. All of us have a team. All of us have some person or some group of people that are there holding us down. I don't want people to feel like their dream driving journey has to be a lonely one, because it doesn't, right? And I feel like it's even better when you at least have some support.
Absolutely. It's necessary, really. Like, it's going to be necessary. If it's not necessary now, like if you're listening and it's not necessary right now, it's going to be necessary. Like, there's going to be, ups and downs and mental times where you're going to feel like you're going crazy. And then just times where your business is going to just need more hands on deck. So having a team or having someone there for you is definitely important.
So let's go into our lightning round, Kendra. This part of the interview, I'm going to give you a prompt, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind, okay? And we're sticking with our whole dreams and drive metaphor.
Okay, sounds good.
The first word is park.
Move.
Reverse.
Reverse and pivot.
Neutral.
Stagnant.
And last but not least, drive.
Drive to a destination.
That's so important, right? Because you could be driving. If you're not driving anywhere, why are you driving?
Yeah.
And if you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So, Kendra, can you tell us 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road?
Absolutely. The first one for sure is faith. You got to have faith in whatever it is you want to have faith in, but you got to have faith. The second would be strategy. Having a game plan, having a destination. And then the third one would be just confidence. Like, you have to have that confidence in yourself and in whatever plan it is that you're putting together, that, things are going to work out. Maybe not the way you have it written down, but things are going to work out.
Yep. And you have to have that belief is the thing that's going to keep you going. That's going to be your fuel sometimes, right? You might run out of gas, but if you have that belief, the gas will reappear, right? That's what I found to be really true. Last thing I want to ask you, Kendra, is this. I know in the beginning of the show, we talked about how you as a child, you were really into numbers and you were really like, your family was kind of like the spreadsheet people, right? Mm-hmm. How do you exercise the other part of your brain? Like, what do you do to get out of numbers sometimes? Because I feel like it must not always be fun, being in numbers, right? At least for me.
Oh, that is such a good question, because you're so right. So I would say that, and this is probably not going to be like that creative of an answer, but honestly, building the business is what uses the other side of my brain.
Really?
It forces me to be creative. Absolutely. Because being a numbers person, being in accounting and finance, behind the scenes, I got it. Like, I can do all of the projections and spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff, but like social media and all of that was like a whole new world for me. And so that really exercises the creative side of my brain, is how do I do marketing? How do I do that stuff? And that's really exercised that side for me. And so I've done that a lot, and I've helped a lot of other accountants and stuff do that, because we do get stuck in the number side. Really building the business and figuring out marketing and all of that is exercising the more creative side of the brain for me.
What's the biggest or what's the most impactful marketing tip that you've acquired, or marketing knowledge that you've acquired that's really helped your business?
Be a person, because within accounting and finance and tax and all that, it's a little intimidating to business owners. And so when I first left corporate and started my business, I was very corporate, very professional. I would talk about, the KPIs and metrics and P&L and balance sheet from day one. And people would be like, what are you talking about? And so now I'm like, oh, okay, so that's not how I slide in there. Like, I actually have to build relationships with people. And, so it's more about being a person and understanding people's bigger than their business, like their life. Like, well, what do you aspire for your life to look like? And, business is just a part of you. So let's talk about your business a little bit, but let's also get to learn a little bit more about you. So that has been a game changer because I'm not just coming across as this walking calculator, which I'm not. I am a person, and I can really help and relate on other aspects. So I think in general, that has been a big change, and it's been great for me as well because I'm able to truly just be myself and not just be this walking like P&L.
I love your Instagram stories, by the way. So
thank
you guys, you need to watch Kendra's Instagram stories. Tell us where we can find you online for our listeners who may not already be a part of your social community.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at theFinanceFem, and online, my website is thefinancefem.com. So I, try to kind of dibble and dabble in Twitter. Yeah, it's not for me. So you'll see my page there, but I'm definitely on Instagram. That's where I live, is Instagram at theFinanceFem, and then my website.
All right. Thank you so much, Kendra. This has been such a fun interview. I've taken so many notes. I've learned so much. I'm about to go make me a new spreadsheet on Google Docs. Thank you.
You're welcome. It was fun.
All right, so that's a wrap for episode 166 with Kendra. I hope you enjoyed hearing her dream driving journey as well as her keys to success. If you guys love the episode, you know what I'm going to say. Please, please, please share this with a friend. I know there's someone out there who really needs to get some small business accounting and finance tips. So please screenshot this, share it with them via text, share it via your Instagram stories, Instagram posts, Twitter posts, Facebook, wherever. Make sure that you are following us, though. We are Dreams and Drive across the board, and you can also use the hashtag Dreams and Drive when sharing as well. If you are not already subscribed wherever you're listening, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you get notifications every time we have a new episode. And if you're listening in on Apple Podcasts, please, if you have not already, go in to the app and leave us a rating. Tell us what you loved about the episode. Tell us anything you want when you leave a review as well. I love getting ratings and reviews, so please, please, please help Dreams and Drive out. Leave a rating and review that helps us in the Apple Podcast rankings as well. If you're not already part of our Dreams and Drive Facebook group, come on over. You can find us by searching Dreams and Drive Mastermind the next time you are logged onto Facebook, or you can just go to dreamsanddrive.com/Facebook. If you want to be part of our online newsletter and get our weekly newsletter, The Keys, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. I love doing this podcast every week, and I can't wait until September, guys. We're going to have a month-long driver's ed series where you're going to hear from me. So we're not going to have any guest interviews in September. There's going to be just solely solo episodes. So if you have not already submitted a question or submitted a suggested episode topic, please, 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 there's still some time. I'm still scheduling the later part of the month, so hit me up. You can always email me, Raina@dreamsanddrive.com, and you can always send a DM on any of the social media channels as well. And one last thing, if you want to be on Dreams and Drive, I'm still accepting pitches. I'm always accepting pitches, actually. Just go to dreamsanddrive.com/pitch. That's dreamsanddrive.com/pitch. And all the information that you need to fill out will be there. Guys, I am just so thankful. I'm thinking about, it is August 2018. I started this in January 2016, and here we are. I really do owe you guys, people who've been listening from the beginning, people who've been listening. This is your first episode. I appreciate you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in episode 167. Bye, guys.